listening to The Breakfast Show, and today I am your host, Lindsay, and I'm also joined by Livo here in the studio. We've also got producer Tish in the back of the studio too. Welcome to everybody, and hey, now we are going to get into a few of the topics that we're about to talk about later today. So I'm going to be talking about some ranch ambassadors to Europe. So America wants to send some people to spread the good news of ranch dressing across Europe. And what are you going to be talking about today?
I'm going to be sharing the good news of the fuel excise being halved and what that means for us. And yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And we've also got an interview coming up about all sorts of weird and wacky things that you can find in the Bible. All right. Now it's time for our next quiz question for our hour this morning. What is that question for us? Please, producer Tish.
All right. So starting a quarrel is like breaching what, according to the Bible? This is I'll give you a clue straight up. This is a very Proverbs sort of situation. Correct. We have one correct answer.
Oof,
so
I'm drawing a blank again.
Quarrel is like breaching what in the Bible?
Breaching
or breaking or trying to get in or surpass something.
Yes.
I'll give everyone the number while we're waiting for Daniel. 0491.
I'm changing my answer.
669. I'll repeat it one more time. 0491 064 669. We have both are correct, sort of. So
awesome.
We're going for.
Does that give me another mark for last one that I got wrong?
Yeah, if you think you know the right answer or a similar word, please text us in. I'll repeat it one more time. Starting a quarrel is like breaching what? If you need a clue, have a look in the first couple of verses of Proverbs 17, or towards the middle of the chapter. 0491 064 669.
I love Proverbs. There's a lot of wisdom in the book of Proverbs.
Yeah.
And they're catchy, memorable. Well, mostly memorable for me. I'm failing, but apparently I guess this one doubly correct. Anyway, we'll find out what the answer was supposed to be shortly.
Right.
But we now have what's happening in our world today. And
I just wanted to read out a couple of things from our chat here briefly. So we've got Lincoln saying, good morning, that song was awesome, have a great show. Thank you, Lincoln. We will have a great show, and I'm glad you enjoyed the song.
Good morning, Lincoln.
We also had, who was it? Let me just see this. We've got, I saw a very cool message. Sherry sent in a trumpet emoji and then followed that up a little bit later, saying, I was just blowing the trumpet because I got it. Cool. I'm happy for you. That's great. I'm glad we're making a joyful noise to the Lord this morning. That's great. All right. Let's get into our news from around the world today. So I have just some super random news. Now, the Americans will think this is good news. I am not so sure.
Sorry, I was launching in on my news, and you need to share good news first.
Yes.
I'm back with the program.
I think yours is good news. I think mine is random news.
Okay, all
I
right.
think we're having a positive morning in general today.
Look, we're having a fight over whose news is more good. I'll let you go.
I think yours is the gooderer one, but this
the
is
gooderer.
just...
I like it.
Goodish.
Hey, speaking of good words, I'm going to be talking about Cozzy Lives soon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you know what Cozzy Lives is?
Because
Stay
he lives?
tuned.
No?
Stay tuned.
All righty.
We'll find out soon.
Tell us.
I want to know all about ranch dressing and across Europe.
All right. First of all, have you ever tried ranch dressing?
I'm sure the answer is yes, but my salivary glands aren't telling me what taste is.
So it clearly hasn't made that much of an impact on your life. If you can't even remember what it tastes like off the top of your head.
Yes, sadly to say, that's probably correct.
I don't think it's necessarily a sad thing. I'm not sure if I've tried it. Have you tried it, Tish? Do you know?
It's strangely not that memorable.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that I have. Same with you guys. Maybe.
Probably happened at some point.
Probably.
Okay, so clearly as Australians, this is not so part of our identity that we're all up in arms about not knowing what it tastes like or anything. So, all right. So what is happening here is there is a brand. Let me see. It's called Hidden Valley. I believe that this is their 250th year anniversary of being a brand, maybe. And they produce ranch dressing, and it's probably.
Do they own the patent to it?
I don't know. But anyway, it's a thing that they make. They've been doing it for a long time. 250 years.
Oh, wow. Okay, then the patent would have expired and anyone can make it now.
Yeah, probably. So they produce ranch dressing, and they're probably a big deal in America. And they've decided that now is the time to expand their horizons and introduce ranch dressing to Europe. It's not just going to be an American thing anymore. They want it to go global.
Have they tried China yet?
Look,
there's a big market there. India?
Is there?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, a market of people who would actually eat it?
Would it go with Chinese food or curries?
Well, see, this is the question.
I don't think it would go with curries.
So what they're doing is they're inviting two duos, two sets of two people, so 4 people all up, to basically be brand ambassadors, ranch ambassadors, and to take ranch dressing to Europe and also document this through social media. So through Reels, through YouTube videos, various different platforms for 8 weeks of travel and expenses completely covered, 40 hours a week of work to be an influencer in Europe. I mean, first of all, who doesn't want to be an influencer in Europe? I mean, Tish, would you want to go travel throughout Europe? So all you have to do is make a bunch of videos about it and post it online. You get paid 40 hours a week for that. Surely that's something you would be at least open to, right?
I'd like the travel part of it.
Yeah.
It sounds mildly scary.
Mildly scary. Okay, fair enough. There's a lot of people out there in the world who would love the opportunity to go to Europe and to barely do anything except for eat food and chat to people. I'm an extrovert, so that sounds like a good time. So it's something that I would be open to. I think this is meant for Americans, but what they're doing is they're saying, all right, take these bottles of ranch with you, try putting it on the local food, introduce it to the local people. So the local people ask you, hey, what are you putting on your food there? That's the idea behind this, but I don't think it's going to work. I've watched enough things on social media to know that local people in Europe are very offended when Americans come to Europe and they want to alter the way that they eat their food in Europe. Americans have this tendency to, request very particular adjustments for their food, which is part of the culture in America and also here in Australia. We're very used to saying, hey, I want this very specific hot drink order when we go to a cafe and say, I want a pump of caramel and I want this half a sugar, I want extra whatever. And that's just normal. But in Europe, it's not like that at all. The culture is so different there. You get what you get and you don't get upset, basically. The way the chef makes it is the way you're going to eat it. And don't even try to, I saw this one reel one time of this lady who went to a fancy Italian restaurant and she's having her pasta meal. And usually you would pair that with a white wine or something, just culturally how they do it there. And she's ordered a coffee and the man who's serving, he's all very polite about it, but he's like, no, you're not going to have a coffee with your pasta. And she's like, no, but I want it. And I'm American, I can ask for whatever I want. And so they're testing the boundaries here with this guy. And eventually when she's finished eating the pasta, he comes with the coffee and she's like, oh, thank you. But you brought it, it took a very long time to get here. And he's like, yeah, I deliberately waited super long so you wouldn't eat that food and drink it with this drink. They don't go together and you don't do that here. So
don't disrespect the food.
They don't disrespect the food, don't disrespect the culture. And I'm just finding it really interesting that this American brand has complete cultural blindness to the way things are done in Europe, that they want to send these ranch ambassadors to Europe with absolutely no cultural training about what's appropriate to do there.
Well, look, I feel like it's making it, and this is where I was facetiously saying, why don't they go to India and China?
Yeah.
It's an obvious mismatch.
Yeah.
and I feel like it's implying that the food in Europe must be so dull and boring that it needs a ranch dressing. Look, I think that probably applies to food here in Australia. Not that our food is dull and boring, but our food is generic. Like we don't have an Australian cuisine really. Like maybe we do, but
I think our cuisine has just become fusion over the years.
So ranch fits into fusion. Like Australia is a good market for it.
Yeah, it would be definitely.
And Europe to some extent is probably a little bit more that way than India and China, which have very definite, distinct food, cuisine, flavors and so forth. Yeah. Europe, each country has its own, maybe, but as a continent, it's a bit more fusion. Yeah. So maybe it is a smarter choice to go there as opposed to India and China. But I get what you're saying. Like it is a bit of a.
Can you imagine if we tried to do mission work with this kind of cultural ignorance?
Well, atheists and secularists would say that is what mission work is. We are exporting a culture that doesn't fit, and so we are countercultural in our Christian witness. If it really is what it claims to be, then yes, it does cut across cultures, and there is a mismatch there, but there's also a challenge to make our cultural our witness culturally sensitive and fit where it can, and that's the challenge: knowing where it can and where there are clashes, and where it cuts across culture.
Yeah, Paul in one of his letters he writes that I'm all things to all people, and he makes
even ranch dressing to all people.
If he goes to America, he will eat their ranch dressing, and he will be able to convince people of Jesus because of the ranch dressing somehow, right? He will connect with them on that level. And that's what we got to do as Christians. We need to be able to understand the culture and the type of people that we're talking to in order to make connections for the gospel rather than building up these walls. Like these ranch ambassadors are probably building up walls for themselves more than they will actually get the point across that they're wanting to, in my humble opinion. But I
look,
think
it could be smart marketing for a different audience.
For a different type
like
of
this
audience.
ranch ambassador concept and the videos, it could be.
I think it'd be more likely to work on Americans back at home because there is such a reverence for Europe.
Yes, yeah.
That there'll be more people eating ranch back in America than they will be picking it up in Europe.
Yes,
is what I'm seeing.
That's exactly what I think too.
But that's not the point that they're trying to get done here. Anyway, that was what I wanted to chat to you guys about. As you share the gospel, as you want to share your love for Jesus, make sure you're doing it in a way that will be received well by the people that you're speaking to. Connect with them on their level.
Yes.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
And now it's time for our quiz answer. Please produce teach.
But before you share the quiz answer, I think you looked up that there was openings for these ranch ambassadors. Is there?
Yes, applications actually open today.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
So if we have any American influencer type people who are listening, please feel free to apply, I guess, if you really want that kind of hate. Anyway.
We're not paid to be ranch ambassadors.
No, we're not. And we don't recommend you go do that either, necessarily.
All right. Sorry, Producer Tish. We have some serious business here.
Quiz answer business.
All right, quiz answer time. So the question was, to recap, starting a quarrel is like breaching what? And the answer is a dam. That can be found in Proverbs 17:14. Why I said there's a dam or a wall, if you've given something like that sort of answer, I've said you're correct.
Is it the wall of the dam? Is it both?
Oh, well if you breach a dam, it's like you're breaching the wall.
Yeah, a dam is a type of wall. Yeah. So I actually wrote dam first, and then I crossed it out and wrote wall.
Well, you got two right answers. I'm
back at full marks then.
You got full marks now. I only got one of one. You got two of one. There you go. That's crazy.
What did you write? Wall or dam?
I wrote a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Now, what do you want to share with us today? I think you have some genuinely good news for Australians today, don't you?
Look, I do. And not everyone says that it's good news. There's some economists that say, there's this thing in the tail with this good news. But anyway, we have a halving of the fuel excise. Now, the fuel excise is the taxes that the government puts on the price of fuel. Mm-hmm. And by halving it, that reduces the fuel price to consumers by 26.3 cents per litre.
Okay.
So for a typical gas, I'm calling it a gas tank, petrol tank or diesel tank, that would reduce the price by around about $20 if we're filling a full tank of, say, about 60 litres or something like that. So that's a significant win for Cozzy Lives. Do you know what Cozzy Lives is? Do you know who Cozzy Lives is? Have you heard of Cozzy Lives? Producer Tish? I'm going to guess that we haven't heard what Cozzy Lives is here in the studio. It is the cost of living.
Oh, I thought it was
Cozzy Lives.
because he lives.
No,
him.
yeah. Look,
No?
hey,
Okay.
that is a good, spiritual application here. But Cozzy Lives is something that's going awry here in Australia. The cost of living, people are talking about all the time, and so. I think it was last calendar year. It was the word of the year in the Macquarie Dictionary or whatever, whoever it is that makes up the words of the year.
Sure.
Cozzy Lives, the cost of living. So how has fuel prices impacted you, listener? Text us in if you're excited about this halving of the fuel excise, or share a story of what you've had to do to fill your car with petrol or diesel. It's been a bit of a challenge for consumers across the country, for the average Joe citizen having to fill up their car with petrol or diesel. Those who made the switch to electric vehicles are probably cheering right now. But at the end of the day, all of our energy does come from fossil fuels. Well, when I say all of it, there is an increasing amount of renewable energy in the grid. In the electricity grid, but still the majority of our electricity comes from burning coal. So whether it's coal or petrol or diesel, fossil fuels are the predominant source of energy in our world.
Yeah.
And the liquid form of that is quite under supply strain and shortage right now, with the Straits of Hormuz being closed because of the war in Iran.
I don't think anyone knew about the Strait of Hormuz until like a month ago.
Yeah.
The average person in Australia is like, what? Where is that? And now we all know.
Yeah, because it affects us in the hip pocket. Now, look, if this is the worst impact of war on us here in Australia, then I think we're actually doing all right. Like, things could be a lot worse. Like, we could get World War III. There's cost of living can be impacted on a whole lot more fronts than just petrol and diesel. Now, this has happened in the recent past. This halving of the fuel excise. It happened about 4 years ago, at the beginning of the war in Ukraine.
Oh, really?
So there was, again, supply constraints on petrol, diesel, on fuel supplies. And the government at the time halved the fuel excise. And that government is now in the opposition party now. And they've been saying, hey, why don't you do the halving of the excise like we did? Trying to score political points, and and so the government
we would have done it better.
Yeah, exactly. So the government has done that now, and people are cheering. It should result in relief of some of the pressure of the increase in fuel prices. But I don't think that 26.3 cents is going to bring it back to where it was, especially if you fill your car with diesel. Diesel's prices, are now above $3 or thereabouts.
Yeah, no.
And so,
What do you drive? Do you have diesel or petrol?
We have both.
Okay.
And so, because the price rises have been more dramatic on diesel, we're favouring the petrol car.
Sure, okay.
Which is an old bomb. It's an old Corolla.
Yeah.
Almost as old as me. Not quite as old as me. But, so we're preferentially driving that, or even cancelling trips that we would have otherwise made. Because you do think twice when fuel costs so much. What's the lowest price of petrol that you can remember?
I was just thinking that, I remember, the last time I took any notice of the fuel prices was when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And actually, I think prices went down considerably for a little while there, and then they went up.
Yeah.
But I think I was getting fuel for definitely under $1 a litre.
Yeah.
Around COVID time. I don't know. Can you remember back then?
Yeah, look, I can remember back then, but I can remember, I'm a little bit older.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, it was like 50 cents a litre or something.
Yeah. So I remember in Queensland, so all three of us are from Queensland.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Oh, there we
well,
go.
I'm kind of from everywhere.
What?
Born in Victoria, but anyway.
What Queensland section are you from?
Emerald.
Emerald. Okay.
And
awesome.
then Stanthorpe.
Well, there you go. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, out west.
Yeah. So anyway, I remember seeing it at 30 something, like I think it was 39 point something cents. Like not even half a dollar, and now we're up around $2 or $3 per litre. It's crazy how things change in that short space of time. That's inflation, and there's increasing pressure on fossil fuels, of whether it's taxes or whatever it is. So that those fixed taxes have been cut. Now there's also the government also puts on GST on fuel, and that's a percentage. So as fuel prices increase, the GST amount also increases. So there's a windfall for the government. So the federal government, it's costing the federal government $2.5 billion in lost revenue from halving the fuel excise, and also removing the heavy vehicle road user charge. So that'll make trucking and heavy like freight heavy vehicles a bit more affordable, relieve the pressure on them. But the government is still making this windfall on the GST component, and so there's also calls for reduce GST or cut GST on fuel. The interesting thing though is GST goes to the states. It doesn't stay with the federal government. So if this windfall that is supposedly coming on GST doesn't actually plug that deficit in the federal government's coffers from that $2.5 billion of lost revenue in the fixed cost of fuel, and because the petrol price is increasing, general purchasing of fuel has also decreased. So there's multiple impacts reducing the federal government's income, while state governments are getting this windfall on GST. So there's a redistribution of money amongst between governments here in Australia, and economists say that some of this is going to have inflationary pressures and possibly even interest rate pressures. So it may actually bite consumers in the backside after all, and there may not be the relief that we're immediately feeling. Now, the other thing that we have to keep in mind is that it may take a few days to come through. So you might wake up tomorrow on April Fool's Day and see petrol prices still much the same as what they were, and you might be thinking, what, is this all an April Fool's joke? And apparently it does take a few days sometimes to get through. Now, I think last time it happened with the war in Ukraine, it took up to 6 weeks, I think, to get through to the pump. I don't think it's going to take that long this time around because there's more shortages in the supply. It'll take quicker for fuel to get from supply to the pump, and so it should be, because of the way petrol is traded, it should take quicker for those price reductions to come through to the consumer. But yeah, don't think you've been April fooled if tomorrow morning you see that petrol prices are still the same. But yeah, so the good thing is because there's supply shortages, that price reduction should come through. But that's also a bit scary that there are supply shortages of petrol and diesel through Australia. Apparently, we're still early stages of escalating for a real emergency of supply shortages, and the government does have plans for rationing as if supplies were to get low enough. But it seems like we're not there yet. Okay. But yeah, this need for energy is pervasive in our economy. Economies need to have energy. We need electricity grids, and as energy costs increase, it really hurts consumers and the economy. And as Christians, we need connection to our supply of energy as well. In fact, not just energy, it's life. Our life source is Jesus. Yeah. And he says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. Without me, you can do nothing. So abide in Jesus, to be connected with Jesus. All our energy here on our planet Earth comes from the sun. whether it's fossil fuels, that's plants that have taken their energy from the sun,
Sure.
have been stored under the earth. If it's renewable energy, if it's wind and solar, that all comes from the sun's energy.
True.
And the food that we eat, that grows because of the sun. All our energy comes from the sun. So we need to, physically on Earth, we need to be plugged into the sun.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Yeah.
As Christians, we need to be plugged in to the sun, Jesus.
Jesus the Son. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So, stay connected to your source of energy today. And remember that all our energy comes from the sun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
And now we are here with our special guest, Kelvin. Thank you for joining us in the studio today. How are you going today?
Thank you for having me. Good. Really good.
Yeah? What are we going to be talking about this morning? What juicy goodies have you brought for us today?
I want to share what the Bible says about justice.
Justice?
Justice,
What
yes.
type of justice are we talking about? Are we talking about legal proceedings or...
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
A few weeks ago, I think Skafy and yourself were talking about the Sanhedrin and the number 70, what the significance of the number 70 is.
Okay.
So the number 70 talks about judgment, and I believe it talks about justice as well. So as we progress, we'll come across that concept.
Okay. Sure.
So I wanted to discuss how the Jewish culture and the Jewish nation sort of approached justice and why it was such a priority in their nation. Like when you look at other nations, they were open to corruption, but the system, the Israelite system, had God as their model. So I thought we'd jump in and talk about that today.
Awesome.
All right.
Let's have a look.
So Amos chapter 5 verse 24 says, "Let justice run down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream." If you want to look up Psalm 33 verse 4.
Psalm
33 verse 4, 5 and 6.
33 verses 4, 5 and 6 says, "For the word of the Lord is right, and all his work is done in truth. He loves righteousness and justice. The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord. By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth."
Yep, so he loves righteousness and justice. Let's have a look at Isaiah chapter 30 verse 18.
Okay.
So this is
Isaiah.
another one that continues, but I love this verse. Really adds punch, adds weight to the discussion topic that God's concerned about justice.
Did you say Isaiah 38:13?
30 verse 18.
Oh, 30:18. Oh, I've got it.
You're right.
30 verse 18. Oh, I have this one underlined in my Bible. "Therefore the Lord will wait, that he may be gracious to you, and therefore he will be exalted, that he may have mercy on you. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all those who wait for him."
So if God is a God of justice, I think it's important that we investigate and learn more about justice, because then we learn more about God. It says here that God is a God of justice. Like, we know God is love, but here it's saying that he's also a God of justice.
Okay.
So
God is love and God is a God of justice.
Yes.
Interesting. How do we reconcile those two together?
how do we? I think God is a multifaceted God. Like,
Sure.
he's a very dimensionally deep God that we serve. And one of my things, if we want to understand who we are, we need to understand God.
Okay, interesting.
And the Bible says that male and female, who created them in the image of God. So if we understand God, we help to understand ourselves.
True.
So this is, to me, that is God's method.
Okay.
So if we can look at Micah chapter 6 and verse 8.
Micah. Let me find Micah. It's one of those little books right before the New Testament. Micah? Where are you? You're hiding in amongst Zechariah somewhere.
Yeah, so Micah, there's lots of, and it's funny, right throughout the whole Bible, you look at this and go, oh, the Bible doesn't say much. But when you read the Bible cover to cover, this comes up over and over and over again. So Micah chapter 6 and verse 8.
6 verse 8 says, "He has shown you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God?"
Yeah, so God is asking us to do justly. Like that's justice. We need to put justice in our daily lives so that we become just.
That's so true.
So this is a high priority of God's. And when Jesus came down to this earth, he did good to all people. Like he righted wrongs. If people were sick, broken legs, lame, blind, he corrected that. That is justice. That is God's justice. He gives back what was taken away. But then you look at Jesus' life, and you look at, especially from the Garden of Gethsemane on, and you look at the trial of Jesus, there's a flip side to this discussion as well.
Okay.
So if you can look up Exodus chapter 23
Exodus.
and verse 8, I'll share with you
23.
Deuteronomy 16 verse 9. So Exodus 23 verse 8. So Deuteronomy 16 verse 9 says, "You shall not pervert justice, you shall not show partiality or take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the words of the righteous."
Ooh.
So share with us Exodus 23 verse 8.
Verse 8, "And you shall take no bribe, for a bribe blinds the discerning and perverts the words of the righteous." Very similar to what you just read out.
Yes. So this also, the Bible speaks very strongly against bribery and injustice. So when we look at Jesus, we look at, in the Garden of Gethsemane, some nasty character came along and for 30 pieces of silver sold himself, and he perverted justice.
Okay. We're talking about Judas?
We're talking about Judas.
Yeah.
So there we have an establishment. We look at, he shouldn't have really done what he did.
Yeah, of course not. So Judas, he's selling Jesus for 30 pieces of silver.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the Mishnah, so you've got the Talmud. So
What's the Mishnah and the Talmud? Briefly.
Yep. So the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible.
Yeah.
The Talmud is like a Jewish commentary on those on those books.
Yep.
The Mishnah is also a book of writings of all of the high priests down through the ages, and they all add various comments to different parts of the Bible.
Okay.
So the Mishnah, it also deals with, a large part of it deals with justice in the Bible. Mm-hmm. So I'll get you to look up Matthew 26, verse 14, 15 and 16. So Matthew 26, verses 14, 15, 16. And I'm going to share with you in the Mishnah. It's Ketubot 105a, verse 10.
Okay.
So this verse, so it's talking about Deuteronomy 16, verse 9, indicates that it is prohibited for a judge to receive anything from the litigants, even if there is no concern at all that justice will be perverted. So let's read Matthew 26.
Sorry, can you read that one out one more time? I just want to hear it one more time.
This verse, Deuteronomy 16, verse 19, indicates that it is prohibited for a judge to receive anything, so taking a bribe. Mm-hmm. He's not allowed to take anything from the litigants, even if there is no concern at all that justice will be perverted. Oh. So if he's judging on something and he's seen to take a bribe, that's affecting the judgment.
Sure.
But even if
it doesn't actually affect the judgment.
Yes. So he needs to be doing the right thing and to be seen
above
doing
reproach.
the right thing. Absolutely.
Right, okay.
Yep.
So Matthew 26, verses 14 to 16.
Yep.
Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him, Jesus, to you?" And they counted out to him 30 pieces of silver. So from that time he sought opportunity to betray him. Okay, so how does this connect with what you're saying?
Well, this is bribery. He sold himself.
Right.
He really wasn't. He was not impartial at all.
He didn't give something.
No.
He was offering a service of bribery.
Yes.
Okay.
So especially being in the influence of Jesus, you would think he would have picked up, if this is a major concept and Jesus explained this to them, how is it that he missed this whole concept? So let's have a look at John chapter 18.
Gospel of John.
Gospel of John, chapter 18, verses 19.
John 18, 19.
And 20 and 21. Yep.
18. 19, 20, 21. Okay.
Yep.
That's very confusing for a second. That's okay.
Sorry.
The high priest then asked Jesus about his disciples and his doctrine. Jesus answered him, I spoke openly to the world. I always taught in synagogues and in the temple where the Jews always meet, and in secret I have said nothing. Why do you ask me? Ask those who have heard what I had said to them. Indeed, they know what I said.
Yep, so Jesus spoke openly, and he spoke in the daytime. He
Sure.
was very open to criticism, and he was beyond a reproach.
Sure.
But when you look at the Mishnah in the book of Sanhedrin 11 verse 12, it says the Sanhedrin of 71 judges, that is in the chamber of hewn stone, or the hall gazeth, the courtroom. So this is where the legal process takes place. They had a special building, and they were only to have judgment in that building.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
when you look at the trial of Jesus, Jesus was taken to Annas and then to Caiaphas, and this judgment was done over the night hours, which was actually a timing violation. They were only to meet during the daytime, and they were only to meet in this courtroom building.
Okay.
So it's very interesting, like they broke every rule that you could possibly break
Wow.
to make sure that Jesus was...
That's crazy.
Yeah, so his justice was taken away from him.
True.
So the other
He wasn't
thing,
given a fair trial,
No,
fair
he wasn't.
fight at all.
Yep. So there were two people. So in the Sanhedrin, there were two people that did not partake of all of this. Luke chapter 23, verse 50 and 51.
Luke
talks
23?
About, yep. Luke chapter 23, verses 50 and 51 talks about one particular character. And we know the Bible also talks about Nicodemus. So Nicodemus also abstained from a lot of their decisions. But let's read Luke 23, verse 50 and 51.
Now behold, there was a man named Joseph, a council member, a good and just man. He had not consented to their decision and deed. He was from Arimathea, a city of the Jews, who himself was also waiting for the kingdom of God.
So here we have two characters in the Bible that were not invited. They didn't know about this overnight trial.
Oh, he didn't consent.
Yes.
Because
So
he wasn't there.
because they were not in agreement with them, I believe the majority left them out.
Right.
So when this trial happened overnight, these people were probably tucked up at home in bed and didn't even. Had they known, I'm sure they would have. They would
Had
have
something to say about it.
Yeah, made quite a bit of a kerfuffle and said,
Interesting.
this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
But these people were just men.
So you don't think they were there and they weren't speaking up and saying, I don't think we should do this, but everyone was ignoring them?
Yeah, well, the Bible clearly says they did not consent to their
Yeah.
decision and their deed. So they were not happy with the outcome.
Okay.
And the Bible goes on, there's so much more. Jesus was apprehended, and when he was apprehended, he said, you come, friend, why have you come? It was an opportunity then for them to say, hey, this is why you're being put up on charges. But Jesus got none of that. So we can go on and on talking about the lack of evidence and how much he sustained abuse. And each of these in a trial, if anyone had this happen to them, they would automatically be set free. If you had a trial and someone was brought to your attention that they had received a bribe, the trial was annulled.
Right.
Like you were
okay.
actually set free.
Oh, okay.
But why is it that Jesus, on so many of these different levels, he has injustice perpetrated upon him?
Yeah. And
Like-
they still go ahead with it all.
They do.
Yeah.
To me, it's so that God can identify. God came down to become a human being, and he can identify with all of our humanity. Like when bad things happen to us,
Yeah.
he can say, you know what? I had that happen to me too.
That's so true.
There's only three types of sin. You've got the pride of life, the lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and the pride of life.
Yeah, true.
So Jesus himself had that in the wilderness, the temptation of the 40 days.
Yeah.
And then when you look at justice, like God has had all forms of justice perpetrated against him. And it's
Yeah.
really so that he can identify as humans
Okay, so
with us.
He overcame those three sins, and
Yep.
he also has experienced all types of abuse that we could ever imagine.
Yes, 100%. And it just shows that we are in the image of God. He is us and we are him.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Was there any final thoughts that you wanted to share with us before we finish up this morning?
Just that God, when you look at what Jesus is God, like if you spend the time and go through and read all of this, like I feel so respectful, so loving that God has not only provided the whole salvation system, but he's provided a sense of justice for us. And we know when something happens and we don't get what we believe is what we deserve, you know, we have a sense of injustice.
Yeah.
You know, like where does that come from? Why is that in our hearts? Like, and I believe that we are made in the image of God, like I mentioned before, that God wants us, you know, to have justice. So when he gives us and it restores back to us this justice.
Okay, awesome. Hey, thanks for sharing that with us.
No worries.
Really appreciate you coming in today.
Thanks for being a part of the Faith FM family. Join our community on Facebook or get in touch at 1-800-FAITH-FM.